Wiregrass Daily News Sports. This is your daily look at sports in the Wiregrass and the Southeast. Dothan Wolves on 96.9. The legend producer Phillip Jordan breaks the news, covers the games, and talks to experts in the Wiregrass and Southeast. And now, Phillip Jordan.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Wiregrass Daily News Sports. I am your host, Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Dothan Wolves Football on 96.9, The Legend in Dothan, Alabama, and writer for Last Word on college football. And welcome into the Friday edition of the show. We've made it through the week. We are here. High school football on tonight on Friday. Of course, you listen to Dothan Wolves at Baker on 96.9, The Legend. Pre-game starts at 6:45. Kickoff is at 7. Jerry Coleman and Ken Lambert will be on the call, and I'll be back at studio control, keeping you up to date on everything going on in the Wiregrass and in the Panhandle. So this is Friday. What do we do on Fridays? On Fridays, I'll be joined by Matt Lowe, a good friend. We did this last year on another show of mine. We're doing it here. We are previewing the week every Friday. Matt will be here with me. We'll be previewing the college football games for the upcoming weekend. So a lot of fun. We've already recorded it. Me and Matt went a good 35 minutes. But before I play that part of the show for you guys, let you guys know where you can find me and the podcast. Find me on social media at PJordanSEC. Podcast is available over at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you are a straight-up hater. You can also email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now, here's me and Matt Lowe from Field Level Media previewing Week 5 in college football. Welcome back into this Friday edition of Wiregrass Daily News Sports. And as we'll be doing every week, we'll be previewing the upcoming week's games in college football with my good buddy Matt Lowe. Check him out over at Field Level Media. All kind of content over there. NFL, college. He's got articles pumping out left and right over there. But Matt, always it's good to talk to you. Good to look forward to these college football games with you.
Yeah, man. I got out to a rough start out of the gate here, so I'm hoping I can get some redemption this week.
So for the video audience, we will flash up on the screen and let everybody know what the record was last week. I tallied, in the words of the guy on Survivor, I tallied the votes. Last week, I went 7-0, and then Matt went 4-3. So do we need to let's go over what happened. Okay, so Auburn and A&M. You picked Auburn. I picked A&M. I was tempted. I came close. We saw how that one went. We both picked Florida State. You picked Western Kentucky. I went with Troy. But I was completely motivated by favoritism, knowing that's where I'm going to school. We both picked Oregon. Call on that one. You picked Ole Miss. I picked Alabama. And I picked them by more than 10 points. I'm just going to say. And then we both picked LSU, and we both picked South Carolina. So that's kind of how last week went down.
Yeah. Some wild games too last week, and the Oregon, Colorado, I mean, that wasn't even a game. I mean, Oregon just completely destroyed them. So fantastic game between Arkansas and LSU, which that always seems like it's a good game. Once again, Arkansas kind of beats themselves with penalties, but it was an interesting weekend. I think we're finding out a little bit more about what teams are and what teams aren't. I'm anxious to see. There's a good slate of games this weekend, and I think we're really going to start finding out who's good and who's average and who's not good.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's like Georgia. I feel like Georgia and Michigan are kind of teams on the top people really look at as maybe the best. Ohio State got a good win over Notre Dame. That was a good physical football game. Of course, Florida State, and Mike Norvell even said this week in his weekly presser, and they're on the off week this week, that despite being 4-0, they haven't really played a complete game. And you think about that, they really haven't, because the Florida State game, LSU outplayed them when they played Florida State for a little bit of the first half, but then Florida State put it on them in the second half. We saw the BC game. Florida State was up and down there. And then against Clemson, it was kind of up and down. So that's kind of, I think, a scary thing about the Noles is they haven't really put together like that one game where it comes together from start to finish.
Yeah, and they will. They'll get better as they go. Most teams do. And that's what you want as a fan or a coach or anything. You want to get better as the season goes. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. But I tell you, one team that I watch and that I'm really, really impressed with is Washington.
Michael Penix is really good. We all hear about Caleb Williams and we hear about Drake May, when it comes to the NFL, Bo Nix, and, like so many quarterbacks out there out west. But he's up there. He was solid when he was at Indiana, but he's just taking it to a whole nother level. He's developed. He's had time. He's taken his years in college to develop. And he is a great quarterback at Washington. They're dangerous.
Yeah, and that coaching staff, they've come up all together through the Division II maybe. I can't remember what, but they've all been coaching together for a while, and they are a fast-paced offense, buddy. And the receivers, they got Romeo Odunze and Jalen Polk. Those two guys, they're nasty, man. But they just beat. I don't know. They really impressed me with the way they played last weekend, and I think they're going to be. I think they're in the mix.
Yeah, it feels like they kind of, they're under the radar a little bit, but we'll see. As we get through some of these bigger games out west, and the Pac-12 is going to be interesting. So we'll start off. We're going to start off with the in-state teams, and then we'll jump around the rest of the games we got here. We picked only 7 last week. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 this time around. So we got 9 here on this one. And in order of time with the in-state teams, and I think we just need to go ahead and get this one out of the way, Matt. Number 1, Georgia, 4-0. At Auburn, who's 3-1, coming off that 27-10 loss to Texas A&M. 2:30 on CBS. Georgia's only a 14.5-point favorite. So after watching Auburn play against A&M, it's just Auburn offensively, the passing game. You were texting during this game. Wherever they go, Peyton Thorne, indecisive. I think that's something we both agreed on going into that. But Auburn's got issues with the passing game, and if they can't get that going, I just don't see how they're going to score a lot of points against Georgia.
No, I'll tell you what, UAB played a good game against Georgia last weekend. Mm-hmm. I covered that game for Phil level, and but yeah, Auburn's really banged up in the secondary. Keontae Scott's out. So that's a big blow for them, and basically the entire secondary is banged up. And Hugh Freeze talked about it Monday. They had guys playing at safety that only played a few reps all season, and that's how they kind of got burned on those 2 touchdown passes. So I don't know. Brock Bowers, he became just the 10th Georgia player to have 2,000 receiving yards. I think this guy, he's one of the better football players I've ever seen. And he doesn't get the ball probably as much as he should because they have so many weapons. But Carson Beck looked great last weekend. 3 touchdown passes. I don't see how any way Auburn hangs in this game, not with the way they're going on offense right now. Auburn's defense is playing good, though. But I think this is going to be a rout. I see it something like Georgia 45, Auburn like 7.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way as you do. Interesting thing. So I saw on X, the social media account formerly known as Twitter, Brandon Zimmerman. He's a news editor for ESPN SEC Network, and he tweeted this out this week. In the last 5 games Auburn has played against Power 5 teams, dating back to last year, they have not thrown over 100 yards in any of those games. 56 this past week against A&M. Against Cal, they had 94. Then dating back to last year, Mississippi State 75, A&M 60, and Alabama 77. Which I know last year when Cadillac took over, they focused a lot more on the running game. But still, that's a glaring stat that the last 5 times against Power 5, they have not thrown over 100 yards.
Yeah, and Peyton Thorne, he missed a couple of guys wide open. You're a college quarterback. You can't miss wide open guys. And another thing that I noticed in that game, Auburn was throwing a lot of deep outs, down the field, but the ball was going out of bounds. I don't understand that. And I see it in the NFL some too. These receivers are lined up this far from the boundary, and you're running your route and the corner can just kind of push you out of bounds and you have no chance to make a play. I mean, and you got a guy like Rivaldo Fairweather, the 6'4", big old target, just kind of like what they did in the Cal game, just kind of lofted up to him and let him jump up and catch it in bounds. It doesn't matter if you're throwing. I just what their passing concepts, and Freeze was talking about it, was like, we got to start getting better at where we break on routes and how we open up things in the route tree and stuff like that. And again, this is all new. It's a new offense to the players. I mean, and but I will say this: Texas A&M's defense played like I thought they should play. You know, that game we talked about it, you know, against Miami, where was their defense? But they got some things solved on that side of the ball, or just Auburn's that bad on offense. I mean, we'll find out a little bit more about A&M this weekend, but yeah, I don't know what's going on, but Peyton Thorne, for starting as many games as he has and to look that bad, it's very puzzling.
Yeah, the one that sticks out to me the most is the wheel route to Jay Fair. He was absolutely wide open in the second quarter. That's a touchdown if you throw it to him and he catches it. And then, look, the game was 6-3 A&M at halftime. You get that touchdown, I think that's a completely different game. And then, you know, you kind of probably regret knocking out Connor Wigman, who's now out for the year, getting Max Johnson in there. But we'll talk about them when we get to Arkansas. So, yeah. But, yeah, I'm going with Georgia big here. Big win for Georgia. Troy at Georgia State. This is an interesting game in the Sun Belt. Troy at 2-2, and then Georgia State at 4-0, 6 p.m. This is on ESPN Plus. Georgia State's only a 1-point favorite. This is an interesting one because Troy got back to the running game with Kamani Vidal last week. He had 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards. I think I saw a stat when he runs over 50 yards. Troy is 18-3. So just getting him involved is very important. What's your thoughts on this one?
I think Georgia State's a really good football team, and I think Darren Granger is an NFL caliber prospect. Big rangy kid. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards and 7 TDs. Georgia State's averaging almost 38 points a game, and their head coach is a maniac. I mean, that guy. I watched Sean Elliott. Yeah, I mean, Sean Elliott. I mean, he's crazy, man. I mean, he's intense, and I mean, I like that though in a coach. I mean, he's passionate, you know, and I think you need that. But their running back Marcus Carroll, he's a bowling ball. I mean, 5th nationally in rushing. So I like Georgia State, and I like them by 2 touchdowns. I think they're just going to be too much for Troy defensively. I just like the way they're playing, and that Granger kid. Heck, this team, he was a quarterback when they almost went into Auburn, beat Auburn. So he's played a lot of football, and he's a good player.
Yeah, he's got a lot of years behind him. And I know I was watching Coach John Summerall talk this week, and he mentioned him. And he also talked about with Troy, like, they should have scored more points against Western Kentucky than they did. He said some turnovers hurt them, and then they still got sacked 5 times. They were 7 tackles for loss against them, penalties and stuff like that. So it seems like Troy's offense kind of has been shooting himself in the foot some this year. So, you know, as much as I want to, I'm probably going to agree with you. I'm going to go with Georgia State. I think it's a little bit closer, but it's going to be tough. Troy's offense is going to have to come to play because I think you're right. It's going to be hard to stop them guys on the Georgia State side. We get some late night football in the SEC, Matt. We get SEC after dark because Alabama traveling to start Vegas. This is an 8 o'clock Central Time kickoff on ESPN. Alabama's a 14.5-point favorite. It seems like Mississippi State kind of got back to the air raid a little bit last week, over 400 yards, 1 touchdown for Will Rogers in that one. Alabama defense was great against Ole Miss. I'll go ahead and pick this one first. I don't see any chance Mississippi State has in this one because I think Alabama goes in there. They play their game, win like 24-7, something like that, run the ball. Milroe makes a few good throws, the defense dominates. So that's kind of how I'm seeing this one. How do you see? Does Mississippi State have a shot? Do you think
they do? Yeah, historically, this has sometimes been a tough game for Bama when they go on the road in Starkville. So, and like you said, I mean, Will Rogers is a good quarterback. That team is built to throw the ball. I mean, and they got to it last week. I think he had 487 yards passing last week. I mean, that's the guy that I know, you know. So I am with you. I think Alabama pulls it off. Alabama's defense has 13 sacks, so they're getting to the quarterback. They're playing good on that side of the ball. Their offense needs to step up and start scoring some more points. So if they want to compete, with Georgia to win a SEC championship or even the SEC West for that matter, because when they play LSU, they're probably going to have to score points too. So, but yeah, I like Alabama. I think it's going to be a tough game for them. I like Alabama probably winning by a touchdown.
Yeah, look, going in there's tough. I mean, you're dealing with the Cowbells are going and everything else, and going there is different than if they were coming to Tuscaloosa. That's for sure. And we'll see. Look, if they can get Will Rogers time, we've seen teams. Remember I'm not saying Will Rogers is Quinn Ewers, but still, given time, we've seen what Will Rogers can do. Let's see if they can't get pressure on him, if they can protect him. That's going to be the key, protecting him. But they're going to have to get in a high-scoring game because defensively they gave up 37 to South Carolina last week, and then was it 41 to LSU the week before. So if Mississippi State's going to be in this one, they're going to have to make Alabama probably get in the shootout.
Yeah, and the coach, that's supposed to be the coach's expertise, and that's just too many points, man. I mean, that's just too many. But I think Rogers, like you said, quick passes, try to wear down Alabama's defensive line, their big defensive line, and maybe get a turnover or two and try to hang in a game. So I still don't. I mean, I would expect Arnett to put a lot of pressure on Milroe this weekend.
What's the interesting part to me, because I just thought about it. You remember when they played LSU? Harold Perkins gave Will Rogers issues, which he does everybody when he's used correctly on the edge, rushing the quarterback, not in the middle as a middle linebacker. But obviously Dallas Turner plays that role too. I'm going to mean, they have some experience. Okay, this did not work against Harold Perkins. We need to do something different. Put somebody over there, chip him. The running backs are going to be key in that as well. Keeping Dallas Turner off of Will Rogers that's a big thing too.
Yeah, and I thought what's Bama's defensive coordinator? I forgot his name.
Kevin Steele.
Kevin Steele. I thought he called a great game last weekend. A lot of props to him.
Well, Lane wasn't sure he was the guy calling the defense going in. So,
what is it too about Lane Kiffin when he plays Alabama? He just looks like he just curls up in a ball and just can't. It's just so weird watching his mannerisms on the sidelines when those two teams play. I mean, am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it feels like the best. I don't know. Last year they lost by 7, and then the first year they had a shootout that he was there with them. But yeah, he makes some questionable calls. I mean, yeah, he goes for 4th downs and he does these things, but it's like, I don't know. Lane doesn't act like Lane against Alabama. I don't know.
It's weird.
Hey, you think maybe he's hoping, okay, if I beat Nick, I'm not going to get that job when he retires. So maybe if I just let him win. Lane wouldn't do that, but it's just, I don't know. It is odd that how he does not seem the same against Alabama.
If I was Alabama, I'd hire that Washington coach. That guy's a good coach, man. They are an impressive team. So whoever's watching, I mean, if you get a chance to watch them, check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. They're stay up late, but they're good. They're fun to watch. All right, now running through these rest of the games we talked about. Number 22, Florida, 3-1 at 4-0 Kentucky, 11 a.m. on ESPN. Kentucky is a 1-point favorite. Going into the year, I wouldn't think that Florida would be the ranked team in this matchup, but Kentucky hasn't played anybody. So I mean, despite being 4-0, I kind of wrestled with this a little bit. I'll be honest, live, I've watched highlights and stuff and clips, but I haven't watched Kentucky live yet from start to finish. So because their schedule, I have seen Florida play. I saw them play against Utah, saw a little bit of the Tennessee game. When they get a running game going, they're pretty good. But I think this is going to be a close game. I do not trust Graham Mertz in a close game. I'm just going to ride with Kentucky. I think it's going to be a very close game, probably within 7 points, but I'm going to go to Wildcats.
Yeah, and Mark Stoops is always really good at scheming up against good running teams because that seems like that's his forte. He's a defensive minded coach. The one thing about Devin Leary at Kentucky, I mean, he's thrown 5 interceptions, so that's something that needs to cut down a little bit. But Ray Davis, our running back, is a good player, and Barry Brown, I mean, he's an outstanding kick returner, punt returner, receiver, got a lot of speed. I'm with you. I think. And what a catch by Ricky Pearsall last week, dude! That guy is a player, man. He's an NFL player, in my opinion. He was really good at Arizona when he was at Arizona State. He led them in receptions and yards and all kind of stuff. But yeah, I think Trevor Etienne's a good player too. And like I said, that'll be an interesting matchup with Florida's running game against Kentucky's run defense. But I'm with you. I like the fact that Kentucky's at home and it's an early game. Those early games are kind of tricky for teams. So I like Kentucky. This is going to be a battle. I think low-scoring game, something like 21-17.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at on that one too. So next up, 3-1 Texas A&M playing 2-2 Arkansas. Another 11 o'clock game. This is on the SEC Network. A&M's a 6.5-point favorite. I feel like we're getting points in this one. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Conor Wigman, he's out for the rest of the year. So it looks like it's going to be the Max Johnson show there. He played well in the second half against Auburn. It was a completely different offense. Looked like his brother at tight end, Jake Johnson. Yeah. The receivers, Evan Stewart and Anaya Smith, they've got two weapons out there. We saw what they were defensively. It just feels like, Matt, that Arkansas is basically the KJ Jefferson show. As far as he can take them, as far as they go. And the defense is still not there. They were bad last year. They look like they're bad again this year. And you mentioned the penalties earlier.
Yeah, and Arkansas is one of the better teams in the country at getting to the quarterback. They got a good amount of sacks, but here's the thing with Arkansas. Arkansas should be 4-0. But another game, another double-digit penalties. They had 11 penalties last week for 69 yards. You cannot have that many penalties against a good opponent. I mean, it's just period. They're that tight end Luke Haas. He's a good-looking player, freshman, big kid. Made some plays last weekend. I'm gonna go with Arkansas right here, though. I think they pull out a win here. I like the way their offense is moving up and down the field. I still don't know how good A&M is on offense yet, but I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. But I think Arkansas gets it done. I'll go something like 31-28, and I'd take those 6.5 points.
Yeah, because there'll be a lot of noise if this team goes to 2-3.
Yes, and like I said, they should be 4-0. They're just shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, they're scoring points, so. Again, I don't know how good A&M is, to be honest with you, because Max Johnson hit them 2 passes when basically Auburn's entire secondary was knocked out.
Yeah, I thought they was going to go up into the stands and start recruiting safeties and corners the way it was going for Auburn. And that one, it really hurts them. I've been, kind of back on Auburn, since we bring that up. I'm very impressed with Donovan Kaufman this year, and you can tell a difference when he's not on the field.
Yep.
He's always around the ball. It's like you'll see him one play, he's at the line of scrimmage making a tackle, and then once again, he's elsewhere. Wherever the ball's at, he's there. So that was big too in that game. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how good Max Johnson is now with this A&M team. That he's the starter. They preparing for him going in. The next one, we'll see how this one goes with us. Number 23, Missouri, 4-0. They'll be at Vanderbilt, who's 2-3. 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Missouri is a 13.5-point favorite. Vanderbilt, a lot of attention was to them. I didn't even think I picked that last game. I'm picking A&M. I don't even think if I didn't say my pick, I'm picking A&M in that one. But number 23, Missouri at Vanderbilt. Like I said, 3 o'clock, SEC Network. Missouri is a 13.5-point favorite. A lot of people are hoping Vanderbilt will be a bowl team this year. They went 5-7 last year, had the big wins against Kentucky and who else was it? Kentucky and Florida. They beat them last year. Not the best start. They had a bad start against Kentucky and then tried to make it interesting late. So I'm going to go with – I'll go ahead so I don't forget to make my pick on this one. I'm going to just go with Missouri. They're playing well, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt, their bugaboo is defense. They're giving up 36 points per game. I mean, you can't give up that many points per game and be one of the better teams in the SEC. So I'm with you. Brady Cook's a veteran quarterback playing really well. Missouri's got a chance to move to 5-0. Could be a sleeper team in the East. I don't know yet, but Luther Burden is one of the most dynamic wideouts in America. That dude is fast as lightning. 4th in the country in the receiving yards. And their running back, Cody Schrader's a really good player too. He's a bowling ball, big, strong kid. So I'm with you. I like Missouri, a high scoring game. I like Missouri though, like I'll say like 45-27, something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because AJ Swan, quarterback for Vanderbilt. I've liked what he's done in his about almost a year and a half playing, but he's thrown 7 interceptions too. That's not helping.
Yeah, the way their defense is, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just can't. I mean, and it's kind of like what I said about Leary. I mean, Kentucky. I mean, you haven't really played anybody good yet. And you gotta limit those turnovers, and especially when you play a team that's really close to you as far as comparison wise with talent. I mean, that's the difference. Penalties and turnovers are the difference in the SEC. Well, and anywhere, to be honest, but when you're playing against a good team, you got to limit your mistakes.
Yeah, you do. And Brady Cook is another player too. I mean, he does well in the passing game. He takes care of the ball. He's a good runner too. So he's one of the guys you may just watch him. You say, okay, he doesn't look like he'd be a great runner, but he's pretty dangerous in that aspect too.
Yeah, and he's really come along as a player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big kid, strong kid, tough. He pretty much willed them to victory over Kansas State. I thought anyway. I mean, and he made some big plays in that game at big times, and that's what you want to see, man. I mean, he could be creeping up on NFL scouts' radars if he keeps playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously not a guy that you would see starting in the NFL, but a guy you can have on your roster, especially now that they're going to, they're allowing them to have 3 quarterbacks now, where that third quarterback doesn't count against your overall active day roster. Of course, we saw the 49ers are pretty much, I guess, the ones that brought this rule back, because you want to have somebody that can throw the ball if your first two go down.
Yeah, and in that league, they go down. I mean, we saw that at Aaron Rodgers the first couple minutes into the game. I mean, you spend how much money they spent on him? A lot,
but they didn't spend enough on that offensive line. That was the problem.
And Zach Wilson's terrible. So,
yeah, they need to go grab like an XFL, USFL quarterback and replace him with.
They got good defense in that Jets team, though.
They do that. So now let's go into this. Is going to be a good one. I'm really looking forward to this one. Number 13 LSU 3-1 at number 20 Ole Miss 3-1. 5 o'clock ESPN. LSU's a 2.5-point favorite. Ole Miss did not do well against Alabama with the run game. Only 56 yards, and I'm still going to go with how I always go to Ole Miss. If you take away the run game and you make Jackson Dart beat you more times than not, he's not going to be able to do it. I just feel like he has to have the running game going to be successful. And LSU's got got a good front, and Jay Daniels, man, when that offense is on, they're on with Malik Neighbors and that group at receiver. I'm going to go with LSU. I think they're better, but LSU's also kind of be up and down a little bit. It's kind of like hit or miss with them sometimes. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think this could be a high scoring one too.
Yeah, and LSU's defense, to me, they're too talented to be giving up as many points as they have.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion, but LSU's offensive line's good. Their tight ends are good. You got a guy like Perkins, which he affected that game last weekend. I mean, he needs to be going after the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Period. But Ole Miss. Here's the thing too about Ole Miss. It seems to me like if they can't run the ball, they can't really get a rhythm. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Auburn right now. If they can't run the ball, then it doesn't work. They can't score. I mean, and covering the Falcons are kind of the same way. They're so oriented. Their offense is so oriented around running the ball. Or if they get behind, or if they can't run it, they're in trouble. They're basically one dimensional. And when you play Alabama and when you play Georgia, teams that are built on stopping the run, it's hard to beat them because you can't throw the ball if you can't run it and use play action. It's just you're basically one dimensional. And then you got guys that are elite athletes coming after the quarterback, pinning their ears back. So I do think LSU needs to clean up some things on defense, but I think they're the better team here, and I think they're going to outscore Ole Miss. So I'll go. I think this will probably be a high-scoring game as well, but I like it, LSU probably 34-28, something like that.
Yeah, and the thing, I think LSU's weakness defensively is their secondary. I think they're good in that front seven. They're good up front. They got Harold Perkins, like you said. He needs to become the quarterback at all times. But the secondary is the issue, which is weird because they were one of the teams with that debate, who is DBU. We hadn't seen that in the last few years with LSU. So, if anything, though, Jackson Dart and the passing offense of Ole Miss will have some opportunities. But like I said, and Jackson Dart, he does like to throw some risky passes too. That's another part of his game. I'm honestly surprised he's a quarterback. I just was for sure it was going to be Spencer Sanders. That's one of the more shocking things to me coming into the season, that he's a starter, not Spencer Sanders.
Yeah, and Sanders is a good player. I mean, you could at least try him out against Alabama. I mean, the second half for Ole Miss was just dreadful. I mean, on offense. So, and another thing too about LSU, and might be why they give up the points that they do, because Matt House, their defensive coordinator, now he was with the Chiefs for a little while, but he's really aggressive, and he blitzes a lot. And when you blitz a lot, and you get in man to man, big plays can happen. Because if you're running with a guy downfield and, and you're a man-to-man, you blitz, a couple of linebackers, there's a big hole in the middle of the field, or there's holes in the defense, and so that might be another reason why they are giving up the points that they are.
And what were they doing when they were down by 14 against Alabama? They were trying to move the ball down the field. They were moving very slow. Like, there was no sense of urgency with them. They were running the ball. I mean, and that's fine, but get up to the line, hurt them not. They were just taking their time. I was watching the game with some people, and we were all like, "What are they doing? Hurry up, speed it up." I mean, even if you did score, yeah. I mean, actually, there was one of the guys there that actually brought that up. He said, "Are they trying to lose?"
I mean, it blows my mind. I just sometimes things in football just blow my mind. Like, for instance, the Eagles game. I know I'm getting off tangent. The Eagles game Monday night. They drive all the way down the field. It's 4th and 2. They don't kick a field goal. They get stopped. And the Chargers coach in the Vikings game is 4th and 1. You're on your own 20-something yard line, and the analytics tell you to go. I mean, what are you thinking? What? This analytic stuff to me, Phillip, is more like, hey, I'm an idiot. I don't get it one bit. And if I was a general manager or an AD and my coach did that, I'd fire you on the spot probably. That's just the way and the thing with Lane, like you said with Lane, you don't even look like you're even trying to get back in the game. It's like we're just going to ride this out and we're going to get on the bus and go home.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. So we're going to deviate real quickly from the SEC. We got 2 more games we're going to go through real quickly. Number 11, Notre Dame, 4-1 coming off that Ohio State loss on Saturday night. At 17, Duke, who's 4-0. This is where game day is going to be at. Duke has beaten their opponents by like 28.5 points so far. Tough team. 6:30 ABC. Notre Dame, though, is a 6-point favorite. Can you imagine if Duke beats Clemson and Notre Dame within a month of it, of the first month, basically, of the season? This is going to be an interesting game.
Well, this is my hammer game, and I'm going with the Duke Blue Devils. I think they pulled the upset. I like the way they're playing. 2nd in the nation in red zone defense. Only allow 5 scores. Riley Leonard is about to be bursted onto the scene after this game. I think Notre Dame, that losing that game last week the way they did, I just think that's going to affect them a little bit. Although I think they got Sam Hartman's a great quarterback. He's 3rd in the nation in passing. Audrey Esteem, he's leading the country in rushing. Chris Tyree is a really good receiver. But one thing to watch in this game, Duke defensive end Wesley Williams, he's got 2 block kicks. All right. Watch for that to happen in this game. And I think they win a close one, but I'm going with the Duke Blue Devils. They impressed me so much when they played Clemson, just how hard they played, how physical they were. Jordan Waters is a bruiser at running back. So I'm going with the Blue Devils to pull the upset.
You ready for it?
Do it to it.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm going with Notre Dame. I think after last week, I mean, man, if they get 2 losses back to back, then they know, because the thing is, they're not in a conference. They know their season from a championship standpoint is over. I mean, because you're not in a conference, you can't compete for a conference title. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I really like Sam Hartman. Notre Dame feels different to me than what they have in the past with him at quarterback. So Duke's great. It's a great story, and I think this is going to be a close physical football game, probably like we just saw with them in Ohio State. But I'm going to go with Notre Dame on this one. So
isn't that's a night game, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's all the more reason for me to take the Blue Devils.
All right, let's close it up with this one. South Carolina 2-2 at Tennessee 3-1. 6:30 SEC Network. Tennessee's 11.5-point favorite. Probably another game we could see a lot of points. Look, I'm just going to go ahead and call it. Tennessee's going to be looking for revenge from last year. They're going to be mad. They're going to be ticked off. I think Tennessee's going to win this one by a couple scores.
Yeah, I think Tennessee wins a close one. I think that's a big line, though. I mean, Xavier Legette's leading the nation in receiving yards, and Spencer Rattler looks like he kind of got on track last week. But I think this is going to be a tight game, and I was not impressed the way Joe Milton played against Florida. And I saw something where in big games he throws a lot of interceptions, so he's going to have to show me something. I think Tennessee will lean on that Jaden Wright and Jabari Small combo though and get a win here. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. I'm going to say something like 35-31 Tennessee.
All righty. So that is our picks. There's two of them in here where we are opposite. That is the Notre Dame-Duke game and then the A&M Arkansas game. So we'll see. We'll see how the standings look next week when we do this. But Matt, tell everybody where they can check out, how they can find all your work over at Field Level Media.
Yeah, I got I think the Falcons Jaguars preview was posted here not too long ago, and you can also check out my SEC previews on CBS Sports' app and on their website. I got the preview up for the Georgia-Auburn game up, so you can go check that out either at Field Level Media or on CBS Sports. But yeah, and I also do I follow the Falcons on their presser every week with Arthur Smith, so really doing a lot of stuff with them. So go check it out, fieldlevelmedia.com. Get all your previews, all college football, NFL, MLB. Of course, the playoffs are about to kick up in MLB. So it's about to be an exciting time for all of sports. So fieldlevelmedia.com.
All right, everybody go check it out. And Matt, I appreciate you coming on once again. I look forward to doing this again next week.
Hey, Phillip, hopefully my record will be better this weekend.
We shall see. We shall see.
All right, brother. Good to talk to you.
All right, and once again, always appreciate Matt Lowe coming on the show. Like I said, he will be on with us every Friday here on the show. And that's going to do it for the episode. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Be back on Monday, recapping the high school football games from Friday night, college football on Saturday, and all the other good stuff over the weekend. But remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. Podcast is on Wiregrass Daily News Sports and section on wiregrassdailynews.com. I get that tongue-tied about every episode. I'm going to get there. And also wherever you like listening to podcasts, if you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And always remember, if you leave just 4 stars, you are a straight-up hater. And you can always email sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Thank you for tuning in to today's Wiregrass Daily News Sports. Make sure to tune back in on Monday for more of the sports you love in the Wiregrass. Check out the podcast at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Continue the conversation and connect with Phillip on social media at PJordanSEC.